All right, we are back with Creativity is the Cure. Today I have the one and only Alexis Saenz. How you doing, Alexis?
I'm doing so good. I'm happy to be here, honestly.
Okay, I want to tell everybody a little bit about you before we start. I found this on the website for thepowerofperformingarts.com. Alexis hails from the beautiful city of Denver, Colorado. She is trained as a dancer at Denver School of the Arts, Artistic Fusion Dance Academy, and California Institute of the Arts. Alexis started Pilates training when she was 15 years old with Luba Takamoto. Did I say that correctly?
Yes.
At Artistic Fusion and later in college while studying under Cynthia Young. Alexis graduated from CalArts with her BFA in dance and choreography and was certified by Master Instructor Risa Sheppard through the Sheppard Method Pilates Teacher Training Program. Alexis seeks to help her clients gain better physical awareness to prevent injury and maintain a healthy, long-lasting conditioning practice. Does that sound about right?
That sounds about right. The shoe fits.
All right, I've got to tell everybody, how do I know this wonderful person? Well, every Sunday morning she tortures me at Grace Anatomy Pilates. But to anybody that hasn't tried Pilates, I always feel super awesome 2 hours later, right?
Right.
She knows very well if I start laughing that I'm in pain.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me ask you, first of all, Grace Anatomy, when did you start working there?
Yeah, so I actually started working there before the pandemic. And, the pandemic happened and I kind of dropped off, because I didn't have private clients. And so I was mostly just doing classes and subbing. So I kind of fell off, and then I moved back to the North Hollywood area last year in June, and I was like, you know what, let me reach out, because nothing happened. I was like, and I loved working there, so I reached out, and in October she reached back out to me, and now I'm back. Yeah, here we are.
I know, I've been going there for 7 years, and I always have either Grace, you, or Joe, and you guys are the best. I would never go anywhere else. I'm about to move an hour away and I'm still going to come in to see you guys.
Yeah, I love Grace, and being a woman of color in this industry of Pilates, because Grace is Taiwanese.
Yeah.
So it's just nice to see that, because you don't see that a lot in the Pilates scene out here. And
I mean, I hate to say it, but if I ask anybody about Pilates, they always say white women. First of all, they're saying, why are you going there? You're a man. And you're right. To have a more diverse environment is great, especially at Grace's place.
Yeah, definitely. I really appreciate her studio and what she does for us, and how she's so nice and how open she is to just have conversations. And I feel like she really sees me.
One thing I also noticed about a lot of people that teach there, you guys are also dancers, many of you. Correct?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, now speaking of that, your TikTok is really blowing up. I was following you on Instagram and Facebook and stuff like that, but suddenly you appeared on my TikTok, and there's 1 million videos with so many people following, and they are wild and crazy. I've never seen anybody dance like you.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's been kind of crazy to, I was just my goal was to just it was helping me heal, posting stuff, and I was I just want TikTok to be fun, and so that's, and I was
it's not
I'm
a typical
just
thing like a dancer on a stage.
Right,
it's here's Lexi doing somersaults down the middle of the street or something.
Imagine. Right. Oh my God, maybe that's my next TikTok.
Let's jump to a different topic. You do so many things. I always try to get my friends on here down to 3 things, but you are too many. In fact, we were talking about music one day, because you always play. Who's the artist you always play?
Tom Misch.
He's great. We'll get to him in a little bit. But you told me that you did a song once. And I went to listen to Remember Who You Are. Oh my God, that was absolutely incredible. I was really blown away. Now, did you write that song by yourself?
I did. So basically it was for a TV show thing, and they wanted me to create a song with the person who was the host, because he's a songwriter. Yeah,
because I saw somebody else under collaboration.
Yeah, so
who was that?
Justin Michael Williams. Excuse me. But basically they had me journal, and from that journaling we wrote it, but it was all my words, and I was really piecing it together. They were kind of shocked because they had 5 different activists that were a part of this kind of docuseries, and I was one of them, but they knew I was in the entertainment industry, but they didn't know I could sing and write and all this stuff. So, like, they were kind of shocked, and that's why he had me sing. As you saw, the rest of the soundtrack is, like, not the other activists. It's Justin Michael Williams. They co-wrote it, and then he sang it. But because I wrote this, and it was also about Indigenous rights and sovereignty, he was like, and you can sing. You should sing this song. I was like, you guys are about to make my dreams come true.
No, it's really good. It was like an earworm. It was stuck in my head all day.
Oh, I love it.
Really good. Let's talk a little bit about activism in your life. Now,
yes.
I don't want to come off the wrong way, but I do know some people that are activists that are very angry, and the problem with that is they don't really get their message across. You, like another good friend of mine, you do it in a peaceful way and stand up for things that are right, and I admire that because I think it'll reach a lot more people. So, I mean, don't get me wrong. It's okay to be angry, and that's why you do activism. But you know what I mean? If you come off aggressive at someone, they may not listen to you, and I do like your approach.
Yeah.
So keeping that in mind, what are things that are important to you that you want to stand up for and get the message out?
Ooh, I mean, there's so many.
I know there's a lot with you.
There's so many things. I mean, I think the biggest thing for me is like standing up for the most marginalized communities and like especially like where I come from, and you know, that in itself is a wide range of topics. I've, stood up for missing, murdered Indigenous women. Anytime I can, I try to educate folks on that because a lot of people actually don't know. So a lot of what I stand up for is like from what I've learned over the last few years and connecting with my community and my culture. But there's so many issues. There are so many issues across so many different continents that like need attention, especially right now with what's going on with Palestine.
Right.
I will proudly stand up and say that I stand with Palestine, and that is a genocide that's going on. I do not like, we have to stand up against these genocides that are happening in Congo, Sudan, like Hawaii, like all these places are in need of our support and need to be talked about. And it can get really, heated in those discussions. And I think being able to channel your anger and your rage is super important into ways that are going to help us move forward. But at the same time, sometimes, it comes out. It comes out. And people need to accept that. I think there's this like thing around it that like, yes, like you shouldn't have like anger towards people and things, and people won't hear you like you're saying. But at a certain point, it's like the reason why activists get so upset is because it's like we're even when we try to come at it from like a positive quote unquote nice way, it's still not heard. So like then what do we do?
Well, let me rephrase what I was trying to say. Absolutely, it's okay to be angry, and you have great reason to, and you're standing up for really good things. But I think what I like about you is you really think about what you say. You're not doing stream of consciousness, yelling anything out, saying shallow comments. You're very focused with a lot of depth in what you say. And one of the things you brought up, it's interesting, we never talked about this. I used to do relief and development in Kigoma in Africa, and it's right next to Congo, and I'll never forget. Everything that I saw was just absolutely shocking. So I think you're right. I mean, we've got a lot of problems in America, but I think sometimes we forget how comfortable we are over here compared to everybody else. I'll never forget when I was in Africa and a guy came up to me and said, "Will you buy me a helicopter?" And I just started laughing. I was like, what? And I didn't realize until I was there for a long time that, in their eyes, we're incredibly rich. And I think we are with the rights that we have compared to other countries. There's so much work to be done in our country, but I think you bring up a great point that sometimes you really need to get some perspective and see what's going on in the world. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's like these countries that don't, I don't know. I feel like it's so important to use your voice on every issue because you can't just talk about one thing without talking about another. Like I can't sit here and talk about the genocide of my people and not bring up Palestine. Like,
Right.
it's all and all the other stuff that's happening in the world, because it's all interconnected. We're all interrelated, and for someone to stand up for one thing and not another, that doesn't make sense.
Right.
But I mean,
And
it's
look
also not black
we're
and
talking,
white.
so we're hearing more.
Right. It's also not black and white.
Absolutely.
Like, a lot of these issues and these things and these topics are wide, and I feel like in the activist community there's so much judgment and criticism. Yeah, you can't just stand up for one thing, you need to stand up for all things, but then it's like there's also multi-layers to all of these things, and I really try to walk what I talk. I think it can get because of the society we live in, it can get really hard. And, no one's perfect, but in the activist community, you do one thing wrong and it's like you're ousted,
Right. So
which I think is something that's wrong. And we have to give people grace. We have to give ourselves grace. And we need, I mean, that's something I am actively working on. It is very hard. It is very hard to not sit here and be like, wow, I am so privileged. And like, what am I doing? And like, and kind of just like, I don't know, do it in a way that's harmful,
Yeah.
And I think, it's so multi-layered. It's not, some things are black and white. I talked to you about this in Pilates last weekend, where I was like, some things are black and white, like genocide. That is like black and white. Like, no.
I think everybody can agree on that.
Yeah, but like, there's so many other things that are multi-layered, and when it comes to also relating and being in your life and like checking yourself and like really reflecting, and
it's good to have dialogue because it brings these up. Now, you're making me think of another thing. You are a lot younger than me. I am 54, and I'm curious. When I moved out to California from New York, when I grew up, Christopher Columbus was a hero. I know it's hard to believe these days, but obviously he committed genocide. But let me ask you this. When I moved out here, I had never read in my history books about the Armenian genocide. Mm-hmm. I didn't know about things that happened in Tulsa, and I'm shocked because I'm a teacher now that my students know all this stuff, but I grew up, I was 10 in 1980. So things have radically changed. There's a lot of problems still going on, obviously. We're talking about it, but I'm curious with you, when you went to school, did you think the history books were accurate, or did you also grow up with me and like, oh my God, why didn't I know about this?
Yeah, I think it was a little bit of both for me, because that's when like we started really being like questioning things and like started learning things outside of school, and so it was a little bit of both, because obviously the books we were reading was not like, they were still from the 80s and like 70s.
Oh yeah, and that's true.
So,
and to go further, when you started, you told me a little bit about this, investigating and learning about your Native American heritage. Mm-hmm. What's one thing you learned that you didn't know growing up about that culture, that you didn't learn in history books? What shocked you or opened your mind the most?
Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, I think what made me connect with my culture and like, I wouldn't say shocked me, but just like opened my eyes was just like the teachings and the way that we talk about interconnectedness, because, I feel like there's different, every culture I feel like talks or about like connectedness, but the interconnectedness I think is something that opened my eyes in ways that I couldn't have even anticipated, and made me start to connect with things in a very different way.
Do you mean the interconnectedness of the different Native American tribes, or about like
everything,
humans related?
Everything,
how
I'm related
animals,
to the trees, to different people, to different, like, everything is interconnected. Everything. And
so
that
putting
is,
value in every aspect of life.
Yes. Yeah. And just even more than that, it's more than value in every aspect of life. I would go even further as to like, it's more of intention and reciprocity for life, because what you put into something you get out, and it's like that, it's like the circle, and I think that's the part, is like the interconnectedness. There is no end, there is no beginning, and all of these things are in the same circle. Like, we are connected to each other, we are connected to the earth, we are everything has meaning. So, I mean, yeah, I think that is the biggest thing that opened my eyes and helped me to start to see more clearly and start to realize about my voice and how I can use it, and how, you know, there's so many ways to get involved within your community, within your world.
And for that very reason that you just brought up.
Right. And that is something that's so important. I say this in every podcast interview, but people are what make this life worth living. And I think that's something that I live my life by. And, you know, people can also, really rub you the wrong way. But at the end of the day, we're all connected. And, it's important because everything you think about yourself and everything you feel about yourself, you feel about for other people, and vice versa. And so, everyone's out here just at a different part of their journey for healing, for activism, and it's like meeting people where they're at, and also like sometimes just like giving space to those things and for them to learn on their own. We're not everybody's teacher, but I think we have to have a certain level of collectiveness. I think the individualism is like where it kind of gets a little crazy, but you also need to take care of yourself so you can take care of your community and take care of the planet. So again, it's very multi-layered, but the interconnectedness is the connectedness with yourself, with your community, and with the planet. That is what really opened my eyes to everything.
Yeah, and I like that you said that it is important that the people that rub you the wrong way, because I think ultimately you learn more about yourself from what's making you angry about other people.
Oh, yeah.
It really makes you look inward,
They holding
right?
a mirror up to you like, hello.
Yeah. I got to ask you this. I'm Scottish and Irish, and when I studied in college history and religion and things like that, I thought that Native American culture was one of the most beautiful ever. And something unique, tell me if this is right, is that it's one of the only matriarchal societies. After me studying everything, it's pretty rare, right, within religion and within history to have matriarchal women as the head. Now, that being said, what I have read is that even though that's the case, men and women have equal value, but they have different things that they lead and do.
Yes.
There's kind of a balance comparatively to other cultures.
Yes, there's that reciprocity. Everyone has their way of supporting and being a part. Even like people who, what society here would deem as like special or whatever, those people have a very distinct role within communities and tribes, and they're looked at as sacred. Not that there's a problem with them. Right. And I feel like in today's society and culture, that's what people look at, is like people that are different, that they're a problem, or they are, and right. that in itself is the problem. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Because in these societies and these cultures, those are the most sacred people.
Can I ask you this, though? How does gender identity relate to that? If men and women have a role, is that changing over time? Is it becoming a little bit more liberal? And is it okay if somebody has just a different approach or belief or perspective on life to do a different job within the community?
I think every indigenous tribe is different.
Yeah. And
some indigenous tribes really recognize like the two spirit energies as like being able to have and carry both, and be able, like people that have those both gender expressions. And I think
this is actually interesting. Are you talking about one person that has both equally? Yeah, that's fascinating.
They're called two-spirit people.
Yes, I have read about that. That's fascinating.
And, I mean, I think that it's because, there are different places and traditions and things that are very patriarchal.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think that maybe, like, back when, like, a long time ago, before all of this, before everything really started, I feel like there was more prominent in the matriarch, and I feel like because of colonization, because of all of these things, it's even kind of transformed our original cultures and practices.
Right.
Not drastically, because there are some places that, still I can't like speak on everything. So also, everybody take this with a grain of salt. Like, I am not the most, like, I still have so much to learn.
Right.
So, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like from what I know, there's like a lot of traditions that are still alive and well of that, having that, being able to carry both and having that sacredness of two-spirit people and holding that.
Absolutely.
I think that some place, like some people, some tribes maybe, that there might be more of that patriarchal lens
so it
still.
may be these days their choice or their approach.
Yeah.
And everybody has the right to try it in their own way.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it gets to be a little difficult, honestly. Like, for me, I think something that has always brought up for me, like, I'm curious, like, how women have to wear,
Right.
like, cover our shoulders and cover our ankles, when, like, they used to sweat naked, like, back in the day. Like, there was no, you have to cover this. And so, like, questioning that, and like, but also knowing that this is like, these are sacred ways and sacred practices, and just like wondering where the disconnect was, is something that
I think you brought up the colonization probably really skewed everything for hundreds of years.
I mean, we won't really know, because I mean, I know that there are traditions that, like, where, like, it's like, well, you just gotta cover your shoulders, and that's what it is, So I think, yeah, it's a very interesting, but there are also some tribes that are like working actively to, like, if you're two-spirit, you can wear ribbon pants and stuff like that. And I think being able to have people in leadership roles that are like trying to bring up these conversations and talk about it is so important. Too. Exactly. Right. Because there are a lot more people, that are like starting to speak up more about that, because, that's making folks live in a certain way when that's not who they express themselves or are in this life, in this body. Like, it's important that they also feel safe and that they can express their gender identity in ways that are.
Things may be going back to the original way they were.
I hope.
Gradually.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're making me think of something else. So the focus of my podcast, Creativity is the Cure, is the fact that, there's somebody like you that's musical and dancing, and that's what people think of creativity. But I think people use creativity for other things in life. Mm-hmm. And the fact that you brought up the two-spirit approach to life, it's interesting because most people think that right-brained people are only creative. But the studies are showing that you need both halves. And there are a lot of people that, the left brain is a little more logical. I think the balance of the two really helps us all be creative, and that could be related to this two-spirit.
I think also, like, it's creativity is not just like one thing. It's like so many different things. I think it's that interconnectedness that we were just talking about. Like, people get inspiration all the time from like nature, from people, again, creativity is that interconnectedness and also the exploration of oneself. So absolutely. Yeah,
I mean, you and I have some traditionally creative things, like I do music and you do dance, but I really started this podcast because when I went through some challenges, I said, wait a second, I'm using that same part of my brain that lets me improvise and stream of consciousness, thought, and things like that. So have there been times in your life that you think you use that part of your brain to solve issues or challenges?
Oh, yeah.
Can you give us one example?
Oh, gosh, an example. Yeah, I think that it's funny because, like, I had a job interview yesterday and they're like, describe yourself. And I was like, creative, innovative. Like, to be creative is to be innovative, And I think that for me personally, it's like trying to find better way. I don't even want to say better, but creative ways of doing things.
New ways, maybe.
Yeah, that are innovative and open. Like, they're not just like one-sided. Like, you're talking about having one side of your brain and the other. Like, I think that it's multifaceted. I guess for like an example, I remember when I did The Process of Remembering, which is my short film, and before...
All right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Before I even did that, I just knew that I wanted to do a project, and I titled it Self-Love Project, and I think what made me actually start it is I was auditioning for so many different companies and things out here and jobs, and your big thing is oh, I want to go on tour with an artist. You're right. Dancing behind an artist. And, I made the film came out, and then that was it. And I was like, damn, I put so much effort and time and money into this shit.
Welcome to being an artist.
Yeah. I was like, what do you mean? I just released it to friends and did a whole art gallery. And I was like, that can't be it. And people were like, put it in film festivals. I didn't also have money to fork out to apply to film festivals after that project, but then I started getting creative, and what made me really do more with it was okay, I want to go on tour, I want to travel, I want to do art, and I don't want to have to rely on another artist and other artists, because choreographers, all of them, to go onto a tour and be behind someone. I was like, fuck it, I'm taking my film and my art on tour. And it was hard, again, a lot more money, but I was like, okay, well, how can I raise funds for this? And then trying to find creative ways of doing it. I made the entire film. It's an 8-piece visual series. I made all 8 pieces into dance pieces, live dance pieces with multiple people. So I made it into a live dance show to raise funds to take this entire film and show and art gallery on tour. And it was only 5 cities, and some cities were small, but others were big, and I wouldn't have changed it for the world.
The important thing, though, is even if you didn't have huge success, is that you did it.
Yeah, exactly.
You thought of something that's original that you brought into the physical realm, and you executed it.
And I think that's where creatives get stuck, is we have these ideas and these visions of things, and then we question it, or we don't do it, or we don't have funds to do it, you know, which is where I'm at right now. But I feel if we can just find a way and just do it and just put it out there,
By the way, I've got to say this. How can people see that?
Yes.
Is it on YouTube?
It's on Vimeo.
Vimeo. Okay.
So if you just type in...
And one more time, what's the title?
Yeah, The Process of Remembering by Alexis Saenz.
That's awesome. I was listening to a podcast the other day, an interview with one of my favorite actors, John Leguizamo.
Oh, yeah.
And he was really frustrated because he kept getting typecast as a villain or a bad guy. And so what he did is started to write his own shows like you. And before he knew it, those were becoming popular. People started perceiving him in a new way, and he ended up doing several of those.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great part of a journey for an artist. If you feel like you can't connect with musical heroes or any type of, a dance group or things like that, you might as well define yourself by your own work, and then people are going to see it.
Yeah, you create your own path. When no one's giving you a chance, you take what you got and you do it for yourself. Don't wait for anybody to give it to you. And that's what I did. I was like, I'm so over the audition scene right now. I auditioned, I made it to the end of all these companies, and I was like, I'm over it. I'm gonna just focus on creating my own work, putting my own work out there, and doing my art. And that's what I did. And yeah,
that's incredible. Let's go way back in time. What is your first memory of using the creative part of your brain just to make something?
Yeah, being able, doing all that now, looking back at what I would think my first memory is when I was a kid, I watched Selena, and Selena had so many dreams, and so that was my introduction to art and music and everything. And she wanted to have a farm, she wanted to have a family, she wanted a nail salon, she wanted to design her own clothes, she wanted to sing, and everyone was like, that's too many dreams. you know. And so I think from a young age I had so many dreams, but I think when I think back to those first early memories, I was always singing and dancing and coloring.
So it was breathing for you.
Yeah, and like always doing stuff with my hands, creating something. Like I remember like making stuff and then like showing my mom like, look what I made. Like I always just had just this drive and this motivation and this urge to create.
Yeah.
Whether it's with my hands, like I can't draw at all, I wish I could, but I still try and I still paint because it gets my creative.
Yeah.
It's creative. I'm creating something from nothing. And I think that's something that I love so much, is creating something from nothing.
Right.
And I think that translates throughout my entire life, not just in my art, in my nonprofit sphere, my work, my dance, my Pilates, my teaching, even when I teach too, and even my relationships. Like I really try to take care and tenderness and like really paying attention to things and being able to create something beautiful out of nothing. And I try my best. We don't always, we mess up. We're human. But, I really try to do things with intention as much as possible.
Right. Yeah, and I think I see that with all the Pilates instructors too. I think that's creative because you guys have got, somebody like me comes in, you ask how your body's feeling, and you might have to totally change what you plan depending on how the person is when they show up. So that's absolutely creative.
Absolutely. I'm literally, I will always ask you and my clients like, okay, what do you need today?
Right. How about your parents? Are your parents creative? Do you think their creative identity was passed on to you at all genetically, or maybe just the environment you grew up with? What do your parents have to do with who you are?
Oh, absolutely. Oh my God. Are you ready for this answer? Where do I even start? I come from a long line of dancers. Okay. So on my mom's side, my mom was a dancer. My mom owned a dance studio. I grew up in the studio. My grandma and grandpa were working the front desk, but my mom just sent me a video like the other week of them dancing, like doing shows and performances at the age of 50, like still performing. Like it's been like dance has been in my family for generations. And then on my dad's side, my dad was a gymnast. Mm-hmm. That side, they really struggled a lot.
Right.
And my grandma always had to come up with creativity and innovative ways to get them through the situations that they were in. Like I love the story when she told me about how they didn't have any money one year. My grandpa was in jail, and like my grandma took the curtains and like made clothes for them.
It's a perfect example.
My grandma made clothes from scratch. Like she sews, she cooks, she has a cookbook, she was on the Food Network. Like that in itself is creativity, and like creating, like learning these traditional ways, and then also like creating your own food, and which is medicine, and like making clothes. Like my grandma made my homecoming dress. She made my graduation dress from college. Like, and that was like also a special bonding experience. But cooking and music and dance and are literally on both sides of my family. And also the motivation of my mom wanting to start a dance studio from a young age. My grandpa helped her open a studio when she was like 18 or 20.
Yeah.
And then my dad, like going through what he went through, he was the first person in his family to go to college. So my parents are probably some of the most motivated people like you have ever met, which actually, I was just talking to a friend about this the other day, is like, dang, I really have a problem with not like just resting, not doing anything for a day. It has me shook because my family has been so constantly motivating, and like we always have to be doing something. So yeah, there's a lot to unpack there, but my parents, both of them, are really why I am the way I am today.
Yeah. Wow. Sounds like a good balance of left and right brain working together.
Yeah.
Do you think creativity needs to be implemented in supporting people with mental health struggles like depression, anxiety? Any specific insight? Has it helped you before?
Yeah, absolutely.
Emotional?
I think that's a no-brainer. I mean, I just started a business that's called Move Well and talking about movement as medicine. And I want to bring to different nonprofits and jobs, businesses, corporations, like for their employees, for their mental health,
So kind of like
do
a
movement.
consultant?
Yeah, or just like being brought in to do a class with them on movement meditation of fitness, like stretching, Pilates, or dance, even like very, very beginner level dance classes. Like I think that movement is medicine, and it's helped me through some of the darkest times in my life, and I don't think I'll ever stop moving, whether it's walking, running, dancing. Like it's medicine, it's universal.
Yeah.
And all cultures embrace movement. So
there's something about that. Like I'm one of those people that I don't ever want to retire. I may do something different, but I'm kind of like you. Keep going because it keeps you young, keeps you alive. Good for you.
Yeah, it just releases so much. Like sometimes I'll just like, even when you learn about somatic healing and just shaking your body and what that does, like
tell everybody if they don't know what's somatic healing.
Oh, that's kind of a loaded question. It's just basically like movement based, like utilizing movement and certain types of movement to help you heal. It's like being fully aware of like the movement that you're doing with intention and like using that to heal. I think there's a better definition of that, but I can't like speak to that so much. But
I think that makes sense.
Yeah, like I think people use it to, it's basically talking about anything movement related.
Right.
To help you heal and feel that the intrinsic feelings of your muscles and those kinds of things.
Back to that Native American balance of everything interconnected, right?
Yes, everything's interconnected. I think I wouldn't even say Native American, I would say indigenous.
Yeah.
Because like all indigenous cultures practice that.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a good point. That's great. What form do you think or hope your creativity will take in the future? Any related hopes or dreams? Can you look into the future? Do you have any big goals?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I would love for my business to take off and to be able to start working on even like a corporate level. I feel like that is going to be my legacy, is being able to get into these corporations and do some of this ancestral healing and movement work and like infiltrate the system in that way. Then everybody will wake up and quit their jobs and we'll all like start to do like we'll all start to do stuff that's like healing for us. Like that is like my dream. And I haven't said that out loud to many people, but it is going to come out sooner or later. But yeah, I mean, these people need healing too. And some of these people, they don't choose to like, it's like not a choice. Like people need, in this society, we have to have jobs, we have to have money, we have to like, so it can be kind of difficult for some people to just be like, oh, I need to leave my job, I need to work somewhere else. But they need healing too, and
they might discover a talent they didn't know about.
Yeah, and so I kind of just like, I definitely have dreams for my business to like really just like help people heal, and I definitely want to continue to create more art. I would love to make some more films. I've had so many ideas in my head, and like people that love them, and they're like, but what if we did it this way, or like we can't really afford that, so let's do it this way. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do those things until I am able to have a budget to do what way. Yes. And so some of these ideas have been percolating for a long time. So yeah, I hopefully I can start to, cross-train my business and my purpose and be able to do both. And yeah, it's hard as an artist to like be able to continuously create art when like you have to live or you have finances or like whatever. But yeah, I think those two big things are what I want to create. I also have always had dreams of like having kids and, raising them with a creative mindset and in these indigenous ways and practices. And so creating life would be great, but I'm also okay if I don't. I think I'm getting older, so I'm kind of just like, well, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But that would be great, but also so scary at the same time. So, you know, I think if I just end up just doing my business or continuing to teach and, you know, creating art like that, at the end of the day, I'll be happy with, for sure.
That's a good answer. We heard it here first, right?
You did. Interviews me 10 years later.
I always like to end with this. I'll say some quotes and you react to them.
Okay.
I'm going to start with one by Chief Seattle. He said this in 1854. Humankind has not woven the web of life. We are but one thread within it. Whatever we do to the web, we do to ourselves. All things are bound together. All things connect. I think you already touched on this.
Oh, yeah. That's exactly what I was talking about.
Do you think you did a good job explaining that?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. The interconnectedness and the being
a web.
Yeah. And
yeah, in
from
fact, you
string.
confronted a spider on the way over here today.
Yo, that's crazy. Interconnectedness. Now look at it.
For people that don't know, when she walked over to our house, there was a spider web going from one bush to the other, and we had to help it go to one side instead of attack our interviewee.
Yeah, you know, I still, you know, I've gotten better with like spiders and things, but you know, sometimes, yeah, it comes back. It shows up.
Hey, maybe you need to look into that. It's an interconnected web.
Yeah.
You need to become one with the spider.
I have, you know, I try to save the spiders now, you know.
All right, next quote. I don't remember not dancing. When I realized I was alive and these were my parents, I could walk and talk. I could dance. That's by Gregory Hines, great dancer.
Yeah, I think that first line hit me. I don't remember not dancing because it's so embedded in our DNA. Like movement is literally like, that's all we do all day is move.
Yeah.
And like move our minds, move our bodies, you know, move words. I think about in college I took like a cultural dance studies class, and I loved that class because it also comes back to what you were saying earlier with the left and right brain, and how some people are like only right-brained people are artistic, and I don't think that's true. I think everybody is an artist, and I say that so much, and even people like they'll be like, oh, I don't want to dance with you because you're a professional dancer. And I'm like, no, I love dancing with people that don't do it for a living. There's just so much more of a pure joy and like...
Would you agree with me on your TikTok? A lot of that is more, it seems to me, free and improvised. Just as cool to watch, but I get the feeling that some of it you're just getting excited and making up as you go along. Some
of them, yes. Some of them are freestyle, but some of them are like other people's choreography or like...
Gotcha.
Yeah, but I think that I just love that people can use movement to like... You just see it on their face when anyone just starts to dance. That's why I try to get my friends. I'm like, okay, we got to shake it out. We got to dance it out now. It's time to dance it out, you know? Because I just feel like, It's dance and movement is healing, man. It's healing. Yeah.
Now, you got me into this artist I never heard of. I grew up as a jazz drummer, and whenever we do Pilates, we listen to Tom Mish's, what is it, Spotify channel?
Yeah.
Great. I mean, what is his main instrument? Guitar or keys?
Guitar, I think. Yeah.
He's incredible. He makes me think a little bit of George Benson and Earl Klugh and people like that, but he's taken it into a modern perspective.
I love him, and he's so young.
Yeah, what is he, 30s?
I don't know.
Yeah, he's incredible. If you haven't heard of Tom Misch, check him out. It's Misch. Well, speaking of him, he said once, I don't want to be set in music my whole life. I want to experience some of my youth not being Tom Misch, away from the expectations.
That part. Expectations, man, that can ruin a lot of things. Yeah. I feel that so hard, like with not just like with everything in life, you know. I think it's important to, you know, you create as an artist, and then people start putting you in a box, and like also like you receive so much criticism constantly. Like either way, you're going to receive criticism.
So you're saying expectations on both sides.
Yeah.
What people expect of you and what you expect of yourself.
Yeah.
So how do you get out of that?
I think you just have to tap in so much with like the intention and what the inspiration of that was, so much so that it just doesn't even fucking matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't even matter, you know, what you think of it, what other people think of it, if it's going to quote unquote fail. I think what is the intention of it, and be so wrapped up in that and focus on that is what makes it come to fruition, you know?
Yeah.
And speaking of quotes, I feel like I want to just throw one out there.
Okay, I'm ready.
That's okay.
Yeah.
From myself, actually. And when I created the process of remembering, I would just tell people is like, I seek truth and healing through my art because I need that. I want to create art to seek truth and healing for myself and also like for the world and for the people around me. And that is the intention, that is the inspiration. And sometimes it doesn't even have to be that deep. Like after the process of remembering, I was like, oh, what am I gonna do after this? Like this was it. Like that was it. And you know, I was like, I should be able to create a smaller dance for camera film or create a small piece for a show and not feel so much pressure and like
just
you know
do it.
Yeah, exactly. And I did, and I'm still doing it, but I think like not just rooting in that quote, but rooting in like, okay, I want to create a musical theater piece. Like, when have I done a musical theater piece? Like maybe once in my life, but there was like this jazz song that I loved. It's actually on my YouTube channel, The Performance. But like I wanted to create a piece to this alternative, newer jazz artist, and I created to it, and I was like, well, most people would look at that and think like, oh, it flopped or like it wasn't like a thing. But my intention was to create a modern day musical theater jazz piece, and I did that. So that should be a win in itself. And I'm not like, at first I would judge myself for it, and I was like, no, this was the intention. It was that simple, and you achieved it. So what, you know?
Yeah.
And I think like that's where we get caught up with like Tom Mish's quotes of the expectations. Like sometimes you just set an intention, focus on that, wrap yourself in that, and if you did it, you did it. A win is a win, you know? Yeah.
I want to end with two really quick questions just to help you out. So where can people check out your stuff? I know that you've got a big following on Instagram and TikTok. Anywhere else?
It's not that big of a following, but yeah, I mean, Instagram and TikTok, it's Lex Saenz with 2 X's, LEXXSAENZ. I'm mostly on there. I have a Facebook, but I barely use it.
You also said, though, YouTube and Vimeo. Should they go there to check out more stuff?
Yeah, so on YouTube, I believe my handle is Lex Saenz 12, just 1 X for that. And then Vimeo, I don't know the username for that, but if you just type in Alexis Saenz process of remembering, I think that's like one of the only videos I have on my
So maybe
Vimeo.
like short form, quick ones would be TikTok, but some more long forms like YouTube and Vimeo.
Yes. And I have a lot. My Instagram is where I put a lot of my stuff. Anything I put on Instagram, I try to put on my YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So I would just say if you want like longer versions of things, definitely YouTube and Instagram.
I thought your Instagram was a little more eclectic and diverse.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. And
shows, like, the
TikTok
wide
is more
span
of
of
me
what
just being ridiculous, you know?
And with your dog.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just talking shit, having moments with my dog. Like, it's more fun. And, you know, but the other places, the other places are like for my art and my movement and all of that. So, yeah.
Okay, last question. Anything that you'd like to promote that you're working on, that you're reaching for?
Yes, my business. I just started a business called Movement Wellness. On Instagram, you can follow it. It's Movement Wellness _.
If people are interested, they should message you there.
Yes. Or I have a website now for it. It's called movewell.org.
Okay.
So yeah, please go there. Please book me for your students, your staff. Let me come in and do some ancestral movement meditations, or I have like elements movement meditations. I can also do Pilates and stretch classes and beginner dance classes.
They might see me there.
Yeah, you know.
And where can they go to hear Remember Who You Are?
Yeah, it's on Apple Music, Spotify, all the things. It's Remember Who You Are by Alexis Saenz and Justin Michael Williams. And yeah.
All right, Alexis Saenz. Thanks. This was really fun. Let's do it again soon.
Yeah, let's do it again. Thank you
right.
so much for having me.
All right, see you next time.